The Bloodiest War. This is the title of this screencast. This is about the Civil War. And just to get us sort of started here, an introduction. The Civil War contained the bloodiest day of the Civil War, up here in the upper right, which was Antietam or Sharpsburg, as well as the bloodiest battle, Gettysburg, which was July 1st through the 3rd of 1863. These two battles, the bloodiest day and the bloodiest battle in American history, both occur in the Civil War. But to get a little bit more detailed, let's look at the introduction here. We're going to start by looking at the total population of the United States of America in the year 1860. There was just over 31 million people. Of that 31 million people, about 4 million were enslaved Americans, most of which lived in the 11 states fighting for the Confederate States of America. The free population of the Confederate States of America then was somewhere around 5.5 million, of which 800,000 men enlisted to fight in the Civil War. Of that 800,000, 75,000 or so died in battle, and another 60,000 died of some other reason during the war. So it's estimated that about 400,000 were wounded. So if you're a Confederate soldier in this war, about 68% of them died or were wounded in the war. So you're looking at a 70% chance roughly of walking, 30% chance of walking away from the war unscathed. The free population of the United States, the North, was somewhere around 22,000. 2.2 million men enlisted to fight in the war. Of the 2.2 million, about 140,000 died in battle, and another 225,000 died in some other way. Another roughly 300,000 were wounded but lived. An approximate total of almost 500,000 men died as a result of the Civil War. This then makes the Civil War the worst war at this point. And when we take the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, and the Mexican War, we combine all those numbers. This basically becomes that the Civil War, more men died in this war than in all previous wars combined. So when we look at this, our question has to be, why did so many Americans die in the Civil War? Should it have the distinction of being the bloodiest war in American history? And to look at this, we have to look at, number one, that part of the reason was we're using old tactics as seen down here in the lower right, still standing in lines as we did in the Revolutionary War, but we have modern weapons as seen here on the left, submarine warfare, massive cannons that can shoot incredible distances. So this is an issue. The other thing is the bayonet was rarely used in this war, as in previous wars, because of a revolutionary musket ball. And that musket ball is the Minie Ball, or otherwise known as Claude Minie's bullet and cartridge. And it was a very different bullet than others. The previous musket ball was round, and it did not have tremendous accuracy. Claude Minie, in his cartridge, this is rifled. And what we mean by rifled is, you can see down here, there are ridges in the bullet. And these ridges would go through the musket and force this musket ball to rotate, sort of like a football being thrown through the air. And this increased its distance and made it far more accurate. So in the Civil War, you had a highly more likelihood of being shot than you did in previous wars. And these bullets do the same kind of damage. They're made of lead, which means they're not going to hold their shape like a steel jacketed bullet of today. They're going to actually kind of pancake themselves. And if you get shot, seen here, these are the tools used by surgeons. The surgeon's tools here look somewhat like something that you might see in your garage that you're doing some woodwork with. But this was it. These were the modern technologies. Needless to say, if you got shot during this war, the medical technology had a hard time helping you with your injury here. And a lot of times what happened is we had high numbers of amputees. The artillery's advanced, as we already talked about, but also you can get more people to battles because we have steam power. The train can move people from battlefield to battlefield with much more ease and speed. The most incredible, though, identifier of this being perhaps the bloodiest war in American history isn't the numbers that die. Far more people do die in World War II tragically. But in the Civil War, the ratio of people that fight in the war versus that die is immensely different. For every four individuals that fought in the Civil War, one lost their life. This could be the most telling of tales when it comes to looking at the bloodiest war in American history.